Hey Toby, so I thought I was just going to do a couple of quick videos to run you through where we've got to with the various bits of the MVP. This first one is just focusing on the UI. Now, I think when I was talking to you about where I've kind of gone extra, I've gone extra in lots of places, but this is probably the biggest one. In the original scope of the MVP, we were just going to have Carl's mocked up designs. I've actually implemented a good portion of kind of the onboarding user organization management flows as an actual UI that you can use from today. This is on the staging environment here, so you can log into this now and use all of this to invite organizations in and then get them into the documentation. So what I'll just show you is what's in here. As kind of a byproduct of doing all of this, there's a lot of the back end in place. So in effect, you have the ability, you have the majority of the back end you need around the authentication, permission management flows that you need to go live with the system. So that's obviously good news. All right, let me just take you through. So obviously it doesn't look like much despite what I've just said, but there is quite a lot going on in terms of all the logins are real. There's nothing faked here. So this is a real account I've logged in with. I can do all the reset passwords. I can get all the emails for that. In here, this is a real list of companies that are coming straight out of the database. So these are seed companies that I've just put into the system for testing. And in there, you can see lists of their users and API keys. I'll go through all this in a bit more detail in a sec. So what's going to be important for you first, obviously, is adding companies into the system so they can log in. They'll need to add users, and they'll also need to be able to generate their API keys, which they'll need for interacting with the Northbound API, which I'll show you in a later video. So first up, adding a new company. So there's all the kind of logic here that you would expect around, hey, this email address already exists. So if I just use the one, for example, that I logged in with just now and try and invite a company to join with that email address, and I send that invite, you should just see here that I've got that message saying that email address is already in use. So all of that sort of permission-based, user-based logic is here. It's not mocked. It's all sort of working. This kind of list here, these are sort of easier to read wrappers on permissions. So you will be able to edit this later, but if you're inviting a network, then this will essentially make this first user a network admin as a permission level, which means they can do everything network admins can do. Service provider, same, there'll be a service provider admin. They can invite other users to join. They'll be able to create users with service provider based roles and permissions, but not into networks. And if you do vertically integrated, they'll both be network and service provider admins, and therefore be able to create users within both contexts, which allows them to see all the context within the application, if that makes sense. So we'll go ahead here and just create a service provider. I'll put in an email address that isn't taken, and that'll fire off an invite. We should get a little confirmation in a minute at the bottom. There we go, just saying that user's been successfully invited to join, and that invite has gone off and will allow them to create a new company. So what I'll do is I'll just log out of this one for now. In here, I've got a little thing. I've already had that email come through at the side here. Grab the link, address, whack that in here. So that's all come through as an email. I now get this little form to create the company. So creative. Go ahead and register that company. So I'd now be able to log in as Sailor Creative. So what's the email address? Test at creative. Should be able to log in as this company. You'll see you've got slightly different links and things on the side here based on the fact that I can't do the same things as the previous user I was in as. I just log back out and come back in as the system admin. I should really have scripted this a little bit better to save you watching me type passwords and email addresses all the time. So if we come into companies now, in this list, you'll see we've got Sailor Creative and we've got the user that's just registered. I can now invite another user. That the provider admin can also invite another user to the system. So I'll go ahead and select a role, and you see it's already filtered down so that they can invite you can invite other providers, but you can't make them network admins and things. So we'll just make a developer. We'll invite them to the system. I'll send off a little invite there. You'll see that one was a little bit quicker than the first one I sent. The reason is that in staging, the actual microservices in the back end had all turned off. So we had a little bit of a cold start, but it's all running a bit quicker now. So again, I'm just going to log out. I should hopefully, by the time, yep, there we go. Join BroadbandHUB, copy link address. So now we should be able to create an account as that person. And there you go. You see it's pretty much the same form, apart from I'm not asked for a company name. Let's make this a different user. So it's distinct and you can see it. User can now log in. I'm going to go back in as a system admin quickly. And in companies, you should now see under Sailor Creative, we've now got that other user. So that's all sort of working. You can't remove users, you can't change the permission levels, but there's still a lot of good stuff here. All the kind of logic around those roles and who can assign what, that's all baked in already and built into the APIs in the back end. So that's really useful and cuts out a lot of work later, to be honest. And the UI is, there's a massive amount of components already built for this. We've got tables, forms, all of that is already built, ready for us to use later. So, we can kind of shortcut quite quickly. Coming into the final bit, I'm not going to get too into API keys because I'll cover them off in the next video when we look at how they interact with the mock APIs that we've put in place, and I'll talk to you about what I've done extra there as well at that point. But just so you can see from a self-serve point of view, these API keys these are the real API keys for each company. So you'll see that one there, and then you go to one of these guys and it's a completely different set of API keys. These are the real ones they'll need to access the system. If they want to authenticate with the Northbound API, they will expect it will, if they don't have these, they won't be able to use it. You can even regenerate them as well. So you'll see here, these are changing. This is happening on the back end in real time. This is the new API key, so they can cycle API keys out as they need them. I mean, obviously later, post phase 1 launch, you're going to probably want to have API pairs and be able to revoke individual ones and keep a history of them. For now, it's rather crude. You kind of have one client ID and one client secret, and then you can recycle them and you just regenerate them completely. But from the point of view of where we are now, that means that these individual companies can log in to the APIs and access their relevant data without any kind of crossover, cross pollution within the UAT environments. So I think in a nutshell, that's kind of where we are. We've got all the forgotten password, that all works as well. So I could, as any of these users, I could hit through and I should then get an email and all the links to bring me back and reset my password and all that sort of stuff. So I think obviously I've had a little bit of extra time, which is why I've kind of pushed a lot of this forwards. There is a reasonable amount of extra work I've put into this, but I think it makes kind of your life going forward a lot easier and mine, because people can kind of help themselves to a lot of this already. I'll leave it there. We'll get on a call and we can talk about this in more detail. I'll put together an API video as well, which shows how users can interact and use the Swagger documentation on the northbound API. I'll then do a similar one for the southbound as well. I think the main kind of point of that is so you've got that reference point for the documentation as well. So if I run you through how it's all structured and sits together, then the documentation that they're going to need to integrate with this and understand it, which should all be in pretty much plain English, not any real tech speak, the tech speakers, the swagger, you should be able to put that together, hopefully based on the video I've sent through on that.